the Bahamas tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Shashina Roll. As always, it is so great to have you with us. The children of Dr. Miles Monroe and Pastor Ruth Monroe holding a special news conference at the Grand Lucine Resort today. This coming at the close of the Global Leadership Summit and 3 days after the tragic plane crash that killed their parents and 7 other persons. Monroe private jet was preparing to land at the Grand Bahama International Airport when it went down. Yesterday, the black box, which records all voice and instrumental movements, was located, and the investigation into that aviation accident is said to be processing. But today, the family rocked by tragedy made a personal appearance to renew the vision of the late Dr. Miles Monroe. Joan Davis-Roll has the story.
It was a show of phenomenal strength as the grieving families emerged during the final hours of the Miles Monroe Global Leadership Conference here on Grand Bahama. It was an awe-inspiring moment, one which caught many by surprise, but one which also resulted in thunderous applause and a standing ovation. Delivering a prepared address during one of the darkest moments of his family's life was son, Charo Monroe.
I want you all to know that in spite of the recent tragedy that claimed the lives of my parents, Dr. Miles and Ruth Monroe, my uncle, Dr. Richard Pinder, our chief pilot, Captain Stanley Thurston, our first officer, Furkan Cooper, our youth pastors, Lavard and Riddell Parks, their son, Johannan Parks, and their unborn child, and our dear friend, Diego Santiago. We all have comfort in knowing that God is in control.
Monroe says that the sudden passing of members of his immediate family has left more questions than answers. But one thing is for certain, their hope remains in Jesus Christ, and their faith has not been shaken.
I would like to make it known that although we are grieving our losses and are deeply saddened by this tragic event, we have never been, nor will we ever feel, hopeless.
Monroe admonished everyone to dry their tears, put on a garment of praise, because in death there is victory.
We celebrate the life and the legacy of each individual. This tragedy does not mark the end of life, the end of a vision, the end of a journey, nor the end of a purpose, but it marks the new beginning of an era.
Amen. That's good.
An era of a new generation that will carry on the vision and the legacy of my father and my mother, and of each individual whose life was lost so unexpectedly. So let's not mourn. Let's not mourn their deaths, but let's celebrate their lives and find joy in knowing that although God may not explain himself, he will reveal himself. In the words of my father, the greatest tragedy in life is not death, but it's a life without a purpose.
Joan Davis-Roll, ZNS Network News.
Well, hundreds of delegates from around the world listened as Dr. Monroe's son paid tribute to his parents and the other persons who perished in that plane crash on Sunday. Though still in mourning, delegates say they are leaving with a renewed sense of hope. It was not an easy 4 days for the delegates who traveled from islands throughout the country and around the world for the Global Leadership Summit. However, they say it was indeed worth it. Many contend that they were blessed despite the death of Dr. Miles Monroe, his wife, church members, and the 2 pilots of his Learjet.
Been coming about 14 years. Gives me a time to refresh, rejuvenate, enjoy the people, and just go about my purpose of reaching young people with the gospel.
The spirit of the conference was almost inspirational. Like you felt the spirit of Dr. Monroe and what he wanted to transpire, and the topics was spot on globalization, about movement.
It was definitely what Dr. Miles would want to happen, to really impart people, to allow them to get the principles they need to go back and really change their city and their nation.
Delegates reflected on when they first heard the news of the tragic plane crash.
It was a numbing experience, you know, like disbelief, shock, and awe. But I knew at that point that, you know, it wasn't no time to mourn, but it was time to kind of rise up.
Still kind of in shock, you know, because, yeah, you know, I'm so used to them calling me big man. And I just didn't hear big man this time, you know, so it probably hit me when I get back home.
Dr. Miles Monroe's impact was far-reaching. Terry Williams from Maryland calls him a spiritual father. He says Dr. Monroe changed his life.
When his son and his daughter came out and told the people that they had hope. And I mean, that was the most spectacular moment of my life here. You know, Dr. Miles being my spiritual dad, you know, after spending 23 years in prison, being a Muslim for 18 and met him through a book in prison. And just to know that he played such an instrumental part in my life, how his power that resonated through him was able to pierce brick, mortar, and steel, and found me in the worst prison in the United States of America. And he touched my heart and changed my life forever.
Delegates say organizers made the right choice by continuing with the conference.
If the conference don't continue, then the vision died with the man. And the vision is greater than the man. The vision is from God, so the vision must go on.
And I'm happy that I came, because when I looked around and I was able to see all the people that showed up, it was almost like the tragedy never happened. People came out because, like Derek said, the vision continues. It doesn't die with the man.
He's not a normal man. So he's in history. Martin Luther King Jr. was not a normal man, so he's in history.
Well, an announcement is expected in a matter of days regarding funeral plans for Dr. Miles and Ruth Monroe and other members of the BFM family who died in Sunday's plane crash. The families of the victims aboard that flight are receiving counseling to help them deal with this difficult time. Meantime, the Grand Bahama Port Authority offering condolences to the families of the victims in Sunday's fatal plane crash. According to a statement issued Monday, port officials join all Grand Bahamians in mourning Dr. Monroe's passing, but are comforted that he was coming to host his second Global Leadership Forum on this island. Port officials commended the leaders of Bahamas Faith Ministries for continuing to carry out his ministry with their message of faith and hope during this time of grief and sadness. The executives and staff of GBPA are extending sympathies to Dr. Monroe's children and immediate family, the Bahamas Faith Ministries International family, the families and loved ones of the victims, as well as the countless followers of Dr. Monroe's profound teachings. This past Sunday, millions around the world paused to pay tribute to men and women who served during the time of war. Many young people took part in a march in honor of war veterans before attending a special service of Thanksgiving. Megan Shepard has the story.
The annual Remembrance Day March and service taking place this past Sunday, with local clubs, schools, and marching bands parading the streets of Freeport to the Mary Star of the Sea Catholic Church. Deacon Jeff Hollingsworth reminding the congregation of the importance of remembering the sacrifices made by the men and women who have fought during the 2 world wars.
To remember those brave, young, 18, 19, and 20-year-old men and women, and some of them Bahamians, who gave their lives in the wars of this past century, so that you and I may enjoy a better world, a world of love, a world of peace, a world of justice.
Now each year, persons around the community don their red poppies, and school students often sell the red flowers during this time of year. Deacon Hollingsworth explaining the significance of the flower.
The red in the poppy speaks of their blood that was shed and the fullness of their sacrifices. And the black heart at the center of the poppy reminds us of the seeds and the many lives that had to fall to the ground and die, and so that you and I and our children and our children's children and children's for generations to come may live in this world and enjoy the fullness of life.
He also added that we can take a page out of the books of these fallen soldiers.
What these brave and courageous men and women did not only continues to strike a deep and personal chord within our hearts, but they also serve to remind the whole world of some very basic truths, that nothing good comes easy in this life without personal sacrifice. That true life and true love and lasting peace, whether it's in our home, on our job, or in our country, can only come through death experiences, dying to our selfishness, to our ego.
During the service, the flags of nations were lowered in remembrance of the war veterans. Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.
Stay with us, there's more news right after this.
Bringing news that matters to you. You're watching the Bahamas Tonight Northern Edition.
Welcome back. The government investing in another group of unemployed young people. The second season of the National Training Agency program opening Tuesday morning at the Foster B. Pistina Center. Megan Shepard reports.
The 4-week National Training Agency program is geared toward training young people for the workforce. Executive Director Agatha Marcel says the mandatory preparations will guide young people in what to expect once they become employed.
Where we prepare them for the expectations of the workplace in terms of their behaviors, their attitudes, what employers expect, how they should actually perform. So after they would have done that, and that's 4 weeks, 3 half days a week. After they would have done that, then we send them out to skills training, internship training, etc.
Marcel says persons between 16 and 26 years old are the target participants for an important reason.
That age range has the highest unemployment rate in the Bahamas. And the whole mandate of the National Training Agency is to provide these people who would have limited skills or no skills, limited academic education in terms of, BJCs, BGCSEs, or none. So our mandate is prepare them with the skill and some certification to allow them to present themselves to an employer for perhaps an entry-level job or anything that they can do.
Deputy Chairman Dr. Cecil Thompson noting that this is a major investment being made by the government into the young people. He says the most important advice that he can offer to the group is to take full advantage of this opportunity.
I expect, Bodo, the motivation and the drive to be greater, so that 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, who knows which of these young persons will look back and say, because of that investment that the Bahamas government made in a National Training Agency, look what I've done. Look what I've done with my opportunity. And so that'll be my central message to them.
Office Manager here on Grand Bahama, Norma Pyfrom, says that this program will be of great assistance to those in the community that need an extra boost when it comes to gaining employment.
Even though some of them might not have finished high school, with the mandatory training that we give them, they can take that and fly and soar like an eagle. So it's very important that they get the training that we're going to give to them. And that they can take anywhere in any position and work anywhere within the Bahamas and further anywhere within the world, because the Bahamians are smart persons.
Today's trainees were provided with the agency's handbook, which detailed the guidelines of the program. Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.
Well, under the theme Teamwork Makes the Dream Work in the Bahamas, the 400-passenger cruise line Gospel Cruise Fest arrived in Grand Bahama for the very first time Wednesday with Reverend Arnie Ship and family. On board were Christians and various religious leaders, some of whom visited schools on the island to minister this morning. As for the organizers, the Ship family, they stopped by the Beacon School.
See that he created them just for that purpose. It's to serve him, be lifted up, and to look up to heaven because he is there for them. I told them before we left, keep the little hand in the big hand. And seeing their faces and their smiles, I wanted them to have the sense of hope, No matter what the physical body may seem like, the spiritual body is an overcomer. And I want them to know that they can do all things through Christ.
Joining Reverend Arnie and Shay Ship and family were Dr. Paul and Arnett Pitts, who just happened to be passengers on board. Pitts, known for acting and singing with Pastor Benny Hinn, says he thought that he had planned to be a tourist for the day with his wife. He's glad he was given the opportunity to minister to the students.
It was just a great honor to be a part of this school today and to just let the kids know that God is good and He loves them and cares so deeply about each one of them. That was the great privilege we had today of sharing with these children. We were just gonna, I didn't know what it was, but I told the Lord the other day, I'm just going to be available for whatever you want me to do. And who knew that we would come together like this today? But I'm very, very thankful. What an opportunity to minister to these children in this school. You know, God created every one of them.
Now, the Ship family left goodies for the students at the Beacon School to enjoy. The Gospel Cruise Fest has been coming to the Bahamas, only stopping in Nassau for the past 6 years. A one-day band was held at Jubilee Cathedral Wednesday afternoon before traveling on to New Providence. Well, that's a look at stories making news this evening. Stay with us. Sabrina Brown has a check on sports when we come back.
Good evening and welcome to Sports, everyone. I'm Sabrina Brown. Fast Track Management held a one-day hurdles and jumps clinic at the Grand Bahama Sports Complex track this past Saturday. Joan Davis Roll was trackside to take in the special training.
Young athletes on Grand Bahama afforded an opportunity of a lifetime. They were fine-tuning their skills in hurdles and jumps with the assistance of world-class athlete Yvette Lewis and Coach Peter Pratt. Coach Pratt impressed with the level of talent.
We are looking to improve our jumping in the Bahamas, and Freeport is a good place to continue doing that. And with Coach Rovano and McNabb, and this is a wonderful thing that they're doing. And I have a good squad here, and they look very enthusiastic about what they're doing. So this is something wonderful.
The veteran coach says given the opportunity, the sky is the limit for these outstanding youngsters.
And we, after this type training, and if these kids continue to take a hold of what they've learned, can we probably look forward to seeing them on the international scene demonstrating what they've learned right even here right in Grand Bahama?
Oh, I would like for that to happen. I would like for them to show that they have the skills to compete in the field events, not only in the running events, because Grand Bahama has been doing quite well on the track. We need some Grand Bahamians to step it up, and we need to put Raymond Hicks on the side for a little while, and let's get some of these junior jumpers jumping, and fill the shoes of a Fletcher Lewis and do the right thing.
Athletes like Vasanti Simmons and Ryan Gibson say that the training was invaluable.
I've learned a lot from her. I've learned that things may happen, things can happen in the blink of an eye, and that all you have to do is stay focused, stay humble. She actually taught us a lot about ourselves and helped us to define ourselves in track and basically in real life, because she let us know everything that was going on off the track and on the track with her, and her personal experience was a lot to learn from.
How do you feel about participating in today's training and the caliber of training that you're receiving today?
It's very good. The thing that I really like about it is that he doesn't just let you go through motion, he actually explains what he's doing. So if you want to do it like at home, you have the knowledge inside your head to just go and do it.
This type of training, officials say, will help athletes not only compete locally, but internationally as well. For ZNS Soul Sports, I'm Joan Davis Roll.
Thanks, Joan. The Churchill Knowles High School Softball League scores. Tabernacle Junior Girls defeated Sunland 15-14. BMES over Jack Hayward Junior 14-8. 8 Mile Rock nipped Sister Mary Patricia Russell 4-1. Tabernacle Senior Girls put away 8 Mile Rock 25-3. Jack Hayward topped BMES 15-9. The Grand Bahama Amateur Softball Association Divisional Championships. The Pats Uniform Reds stopped the Kellys Pacesetters 18-7 in co-ed play and up 3-1 in the series. series. The Coopers Destroyers nipped the Immigration Enforcers 20-19. Coopers up 3-1 in the series. The Huglo Braves blasted the Tennessee Lutherans 26-9 and now sit on a 3-1 lead in the men's series. Play continues tonight at the Plex. The James Goon Culmer Keith Mullings Primary School's basketball league is being played at the Jack Hayward Gym. Yesterday, the Hugh Campbell Hornets defeated the Freeport Primary Conquerors 4-1. Tomorrow, the Freeport Primary Conquerors will play against the Lewis Yard Eagles. And that's your check on sports.